I am joined by Theodore Holloway, the VP Digital Marketing with Remington Hotels, coming to us from Biscayne, Florida. Did I say that right? Biscayne?
Key Biscayne, yeah. So just off Miami. There's two bridges, technically, well, three that separate us, but we're like a suburb of Miami, basically.
Yeah. You staying safe?
Yeah, being on an island and away from kind of the rest of the craziness in Miami right now is about as safe as you can get.
So. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, how have you been through the pandemic?
It's been ups and downs. I've had moments of what do they call it? Survivor's guilt. Where you look around and you think, well, why me, or what's going on? And then on the other hand, we've taken on some new hotels. We've been able to hire some people back as well as hire some new people. And we've actually had really good communication with our senior leadership. The Sloan Dean, he was our chief operating officer, now chief executive officer. At one point was conducting weekly webinars. So, and in some cases, at one point they divided into people who had been furloughed and people who were still employed. And I've talked to people at other companies, and I cannot tell you how much that meant to people at Remington to have that kind of constant dialogue and update, even if the information wasn't necessarily what people wanted to hear.
Yeah,
I think people really needed to hear what was happening.
So tell us a little bit about Remington.
Remington, we have 79 hotels. We're a subsidiary of Ashford Inc. So we're a third-party hotel operator, mostly in the upper upscale. About a half the portfolio are Hiltons, the other half are Marriotts, with a few that are independent. So we've got one Hyatt and two IHGs, and then 12, but they're all very geographically diverse. So we've got a handful here in Florida, maybe half a dozen or a dozen in Texas, and then another dozen in California. But the company's been around since the early 80s. Well, actually, maybe technically longer than that. But at one point, the founders, the Bennetts, had the management company and the hotel ownership as one entity. And then over the years, they've divided them off. So now the majority of the owned assets are in a REIT, or actually technically two REITs. And then they've divided off the project management team and created their own company for that. And then I also acquired some companies like Pure Rooms and Open Key. So it's really a full suite of products now.
Well, tell us about your job. How have you had to adjust throughout all this?
Yeah, so originally our structure at the start of the pandemic was that we were somewhat divided in the sense that we had the independent hotels as their own carve out. So they had a dedicated marketing team. And then they also had dedicated support for revenue management as well as for sales. And with the reduction in opportunities and staffing, we had to eliminate some of that. We also were previously under a executive vice president of revenue management, and that included marketing, as well as a senior vice president of sales. And so we've combined the executive vice president role with responsibility for sales and created a chief commercial officer. So Raul Moronta joined Remington in December, and he came from Crescent, where he was the senior vice president of revenue management. And so under his leadership, I would say that, given all of the changes that happened with COVID, we've actually seen a lot more changes since his arrival, and good ones. We've put a lot more emphasis on branding Remington, a significant amount of effort into building out our analytics tool. We call it REMI, REMI for intelligence, and we're just constantly enhancing that. So we've got a team that's dedicated to building out different reports and dashboards and getting integration so that the data flows correctly and is mapped. But it's just almost limitless in terms of the potential that has, and we've put a lot more focus on not only getting the data and the dashboards, but then more importantly, using it.
So that's interesting. I mean, a lot of people talk about creating this commercial officer. You guys done it, and I get a sense there's a whole lot more collaboration between the three organizations, right? Sales, revenue, marketing, probably even operations.
Yeah, absolutely. We weren't always, I wouldn't say divided, but in terms of shared interests, and we've always been very focused on growing RevPAR index and also ensuring that we were being cost conscious as far as how we were spending on different distribution channels. But by consolidating, it's really in a way allowed for us to cross support. So one example is we put a lot more emphasis on how we use and work with the OTAs, and not to say that in the past we didn't work with them. We just may not have been all in as we are today. And so in terms of where that sits between even revenue management and digital marketing, we've had to tackle it collectively and really just look at it as far as resource availability and efficiencies to say, well, okay, in terms of, say, take travel ads versus a discount, if we're going to do a promotion, these are things that in the past may have been, well, that's my responsibility or that's yours, and today it's all of that's been taken away. So it's really just a matter of ensuring that there's collective buy-in and understanding, and then feeding that information, quite frankly, into REMI, so that way we can evaluate, which levers are actually moving the needle for the different markets and different properties.
How are you predominantly marketing your hotels right now? I mean, are they all open or?
Yeah, we actually we had a couple of hotels that went through buyouts, but we didn't close any hotels during the pandemic. So we've operated all of them as if, well, we've had to reduce staffing in many cases, but by and large, there weren't any closed hotels. And so in terms of marketing them, what we're focused on is predominantly leisure. We've got sales teams, and as we've kept them throughout the whole process, but at the same time, and the good news is their lead volume is starting to increase from what we're seeing. However, the challenge is that the leads are in some cases further out. There are some that are very short term, but by and large, where we're seeing a lot of the growth is in 2022 and even into 2023. So, in terms of where we're focused is really on that leisure customer, and whether it be assuring them about our safety protocols, as we did very early on in the pandemic, not only for them but also for our guests and for the employees, and then at the same time, like I said, we're very integrated now with our approach in terms of working with the OTAs. We acknowledge that as the leisure customers are doing their research and dreaming and planning their trips, whether it be for this year or beyond, that we really have to participate there because of the reach that they have.
Any advice for hoteliers as we wrap up?
Things are going to get better. There's a lot of optimism, and it's going to be a very exciting time to be in the industry. I think there'll be a lot of new opportunities, as well as maybe some things that in the past people had considered but maybe hadn't pursued. For people in the industry who might be looking at moving into other industries, trying to tough it out a little bit longer and know there's a light coming, and that it's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, Theodore, well, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.